Two phone calls in, a woman told me she'd probably still be married to her ex-husband if she hadn't found out he'd been secretly tracking her. Her phone, her car, devices, she didn't know were there. Present tense, she still loves him. Would probably still be his wife if it weren't for the secret surveillance of her every move. And for about 24 hours, I almost let that go. Before I get into this, one rule I hold on this show: if I'm actually dating someone, if there's real potential, they're off limits. Their privacy matters more than the content. This one's fair game because it ended before we were officially dating. A couple of calls, no in-person meeting. Let's call her Rachel. Good text chemistry, funny, smart. We had a call on Thursday, and even though she never asked a single question about me on the call, it went well enough we set up another for Saturday. After all, it was a first call, maybe she was just nervous. Friday afternoon, her plans changed, so she asked if we could move it to Friday night instead. I said it was going to be tough, but I'll make it work. 15 minutes before that call, she texted and said she'd fallen asleep and was going to bed. No apology, just a new time proposed, like the first cancellation hadn't happened. I said, fine. Everybody's tired. Saturday, the new time comes and goes without her mentioning it, despite texting back and forth all day. And I finally ask about it myself. So she says, yes, we could have a call, but she's got a terrible headache. So, because I'm not an animal, I offer to reschedule. She agrees, and I tell her to feel better. Still no apology. Just how about Sunday? 2 cancellations in a row, both times on calls she'd suggested herself, and neither time an "I'm sorry" or "thanks for being flexible." I noticed and filed it away as nothing. Told myself she's just casual. Everybody gets busy. It was nothing. I just didn't want it to be, because months on the apps will do that to you. Somewhere in there, she went and listened to close to a dozen of my episodes of this very show in under a day, and then messaged me gushing about how funny it was and how much she loved the observations. Warmer about my content than she had been apologetic about standing me up twice. I noticed that too. I still let it go. Sunday night, we finally talk again, for 2 hours. She tells me about her family, by name, like I already know these people, multiple exes in great detail, her job, her childhood, her brothers, her parents. Not one question about me, the entire call. I tried to end that call 5 times. 5 times I said some version of, I have to let you go. 5 times she paused for a half a second and just kept going. She told me I was so easy to talk to. Sure, I was easy to talk to because I wasn't talking. I was listening to a monologue pretending to be a conversation. By the end of that week, I checked on her when she was sick, wished her a happy birthday, rescheduled twice without complaint, sat through 2 hours of one-way phone calls, and not once did I get a single thank you. Not once did I get a single apology. Here's what I actually believe about that now. How someone treats you when they're supposedly on their best behavior is the ceiling, not the starting point. If thank you is too much effort in week 1, it's not showing up in month 6. Then somewhere in hour 2, between the stories about her family and her exes, she said the thing that should have ended it right on the spot. She still loves her ex-husband, always will, and how great of a man he was, and would still be married to him if she hadn't found out he'd been tracking her the entire time, unbeknownst to her, using her own cell phone and car. She said it casual, like carrying active love for someone she has no children with and divorced 7 years ago is just a normal fact about herself, like telling me she likes swimming. I spent the next day trying to talk myself out of what I had just heard. Maybe she meant it platonically. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe it didn't mean how it sounded. Then I asked myself one honest question. If a woman I was seeing had told me from day one that she was still in love with her ex who cheated on her and talked to him constantly, would I have stayed? No, not for a single day. So why was I about to make an exception now? Just because I was tired of the apps and she seemed interested? I still love my ex is not the same sentence as I have good memories or I'm grateful for what we had. Those mean it's processed. Present tense, active love means you'll be measured against that person the entire time you're together, whether she admits that or not. And I'd probably still be with him is clear regret. That tells you you're not her first choice. You're her available option. I've been the available option before, so I know exactly how that ends. Different woman. She told me on day one she was still in love with her ex-husband, still best friends with him, talked to him constantly, and he lived right down the street from her. She was enmeshed with her adult son the same way. She also told me, unprompted, all the terrible things he had done during the marriage. I told myself, she's with me now, so that must be in the past. She's just being mature about her history. She was never past it. About 2 months in, she suddenly informed me that I could never again say anything negative about him for the rest of the relationship, even though I'd barely said a word about him and what little I had came directly from her own stories. She then told me that I was using the information she told me against her and that she shouldn't tell me things any longer. Huh? That's crazy. She told me he'd never once in his entire life said a negative thing about another human being. That's not a real person. That's a shrine. I missed the tell. 5 months in, I figured out she'd been cheating on me nearly the whole time. Random people, different cities where she had a layover and at home. Not with him, but emotionally, she'd been with him the entire relationship. He occupied the space that should have been mine. I just filled time until something else came along or until she got bored waiting for a man who was never coming back. So when Rachel said almost the same sentence to me 2 calls in, I recognized it immediately, and I still nearly let it slide anyway, because I'm tired, because the pool's small in your 50s, and because better than nothing starts sounding like a real standard after months of nothing. That's dating exhaustion. It's exactly what turns a red flag pink, then mauve, then eventually, well, maybe I'm being too critical. That's how you end up 6 months deep into something that told you exactly what it was on day one. So I made a choice. Believe her the first time, or talk myself out of it because I was tired and she seemed interested. I sent a short text, told her I appreciated the conversation, but when she said she would probably be still married to her ex, that told me she wasn't in a place to start something new, and I was looking for someone who was. She responded almost immediately, said she only meant platonically, rarely thinks of him, called it flamboyant phrasing. In the same message, told me it was interesting how quick I was to jump ship without really ever getting to know her. No apology anywhere, just deflection, and making the misunderstanding mine. 4 more messages came over the next 8 hours, after I'd already ended it cleanly. Every one of them explained why I was wrong, and not one of them said she was sorry. Even in rejection, she couldn't manage it. That told me everything the phone call hadn't already. For about a day, I almost reversed the whole decision, because she's better than most of what months of the apps have produced. She held a conversation, even a one-sided one. She made it to 2 actual calls, even after 2 cancellations first. When you're exhausted, better than terrible starts to feel like good enough. That's the trap. Every half-decent match starts to feel like something worth forcing. None of that changes what she told me, twice, in her own words. Still in love with a 7-year-old ex-husband. 3 total hours on the phone and countless texts without asking me a single question. Unable to say sorry while defending herself and putting the blame on me. What actually stuck with me wasn't the red flags themselves, it was how close I came to overriding something I already knew just because I was tired of being right and alone at the same time. I caught this one in week 1 instead of month 5, so that's some progress. It's also told me I need an actual break from the apps. Like a real break. Because I've done a whole episode about never making dating decisions while exhausted, and I still almost ignored my own advice in real time. If this sounds familiar, someone who never apologizes, never says thank you, casually mentions still in love with their ex, it's nothing, you're overreacting, believe them the first time. You don't need more evidence, and you don't owe them extra chances to prove you wrong. People show you who they are in the small stuff, canceling without an apology, talking for 2 hours without asking a single question, loving someone who isn't you out loud on a second phone call. The pool might be small, but you only need one. And at minimum, that one should not be in love with a greasy ex or incapable of saying the words, "I'm sorry." It stopped raining. That's something, right?